Have you ever felt like you weren't enough? Like your strengths didn't match up with the task before you? So, you're not alone. Back in Bible times, there was a man named Gideon. He lived in a time when his people, the Israelites, were being oppressed by a group of invaders called the Midianites. It was so bad that the Israelites had to hide their valuables and even their wives and children. And Gideon felt helpless to do anything about it. But God had other plans. One day, God spoke to Gideon and told him to save Israel from the Midianites. Can you imagine the surprise? Here's Gideon hiding, afraid and thinking he's not worthy. God says, hey, you're going to be the one to deliver my people. At first, Gideon tried to argue with God, saying, my family is the weakest in the clan, and I am the least in my father's house. How can I save Israel? But God reassured him, saying, I will be with you, and you will defeat the Midianites as if you were fighting against a single person. Despite God's reassurance, Gideon was still scared, so he asked for a sign. He said, if you really want me to do this, God, then let the fleece you put on the ground be wet in the morning, and if it's dry, I won't do it. That night, Gideon put a fleece on the ground and waited. In the morning, he found the fleece was wet, so he thought, okay, God's telling me to do it. But he wasn't totally convinced. So he decided to try one more thing. He prayed, God, I need another sign. Let the fleece be dry tomorrow, and if it's wet, I'll know that it's you. That night, God granted his request, and the fleece was dry. Gideon finally felt confident that God was with him, and he assembled an army of 32,000 men. You might think that 32,000 is a pretty big number. And yeah, compared to the numbers we're about to see, it's massive. But get this, God told Gideon that was way too many. He said, you have too many soldiers. I can't win if there are so many of you. You need less, 300 men. So God sent most of Gideon's army home, and he was left with just 300 brave soldiers. With such a small force, Gideon was outnumbered 100 to 1. But he trusted God's plan. They reached the camp of the Midianites and their allies, the sons of Seir, and they were ready for battle. Now here's where things get really interesting. Gideon and his 300 men didn't attack head-on. They were too outnumbered for that. Instead, they played a trick. Each soldier put a trumpet and 3 jars with torches inside their cloak. As the men approached the camp, they pretended to be scared and started blowing their trumpets and smashing their jars. This created a lot of noise and light, which confused the Midianites and their allies. They couldn't figure out what was going on. Was it an attack? What was with all the noise and the light? It was total chaos. And in the middle of this commotion, Gideon and his 300 men ran away, pretending to flee. The enemy, thinking they'd won, pursued them. Then after only a short distance, Gideon turned around with his men, and because the enemy was so disorganized, nobody even realized that they were being attacked. No swords were drawn, no shields raised. The Midianites and their allies were completely confused until they were all captured or had run away. And that's when they realized what had happened. They had been defeated by just 300 men. Gideon's story teaches us some important lessons. First, God can use anyone for his purpose. It doesn't matter if you feel weak or unworthy. If God calls you to do something, he will give you the strength to do it. Second, we need to trust God's plan. Even when we don't understand it, Gideon didn't get to choose the method of the victory. He just had to trust that God's way was the best way. And third, God often does the impossible. When we think we've lost, he can turn things around. Just when Gideon's army seemed too small to win, he pulled off a brilliant surprise attack. So remember, no matter how tough things seem, never give up. God is in control. And sometimes he likes to do the unexpected. If you liked this story, be sure to check out our videos. We've got lots of exciting adventures from the Bible that will inspire you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.